Caitlin Clark again goes out with injury.
Caitlin Clark is out with a groin injury.
This hurts the entire WNBA. The league won't exist without her. Pray for her return.
CC hurt again.
That it just went bad.
She is the WNBA. That's the draw. That's the aura. That's the brand. That should be the logo of the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark's injury update shook the WNBA.
Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark has suffered a left groin injury, and she is out.
Caitlin Clark out yet again with a left groin injury.
She's out with a groin strain, and fans are blaming the coach for reckless handling.
Caitlin Clark is going out now for a third time with a third injury. This time it is her left groin.
If you believe Caitlin is still the #1 star and deserves better, drop a #1 in the comments to show support. Let's get into what really happened and why fans are outraged.
The Indiana Fever literally taking what looks like the most valuable women's athlete asset, I contend, is worth more than every player in the WNBA combined.
Caitlin Clark didn't just suddenly get injured. The signs were there for anyone paying attention. Over the last few games, something was clearly off. Her energy seemed low. Her shooting percentage dropped drastically.
She has only made 1 3-pointer in her last 3 games. It is very clear that Caitlin Clark is not feeling like Caitlin Clark.
Just 1 made 3-pointer in her last 3 appearances. In a recent game, she scored only 6 points, far below her usual impact. Fans noticed even more subtle red flags. Caitlin wasn't hyping up the crowd like she normally does. Her usual intensity and confidence just weren't there. And during warm-ups, her routine looked different.
Now, she did have her quad taped up during the Connecticut Sun game.
Slower, more cautious. Observers pointed out that she had her upper left leg heavily taped for multiple games.
Fans also noticed that she had her upper left leg taped during a couple of those games.
She also had her groin taped up during the New York Liberty game.
That's not something you do unless you're managing pain. Then came the moment that confirmed everyone's fear.
I think Caitlin's hurt. I'm not going to be surprised if sometime soon the Indiana Fever pulls her.
In the closing seconds of the game against Seattle, Caitlin was inexplicably subbed back in, even though the Fever were already up by 8 points. She fumbled a handoff,
Did a step with the left leg, and boom, the left leg comes from under her.
made a sharp move, and suddenly went down in what appeared to be a non-contact fall.
She gets a handoff from Aaliyah Boston, and then she fumbles the ball a little bit and she falls to the ground.
The cameras caught it all. The pain on her face, the way she grabbed at her groin,
She says, ow, she's kind of limping to the bench.
She ended up grabbing her groin right here.
and the way she limped off the court. It didn't take long for the team to confirm what many already suspected. Caitlin Clark had undergone an MRI and was diagnosed with a groin injury. She's now listed as day-to-day. But what shocked fans even more was Coach Stephanie White's admission. She claimed she didn't know about the injury until the night before the announcement. That raised immediate red flags. How could the coach not know when thousands of fans could see something was clearly wrong? This wasn't just a freak accident. It was a slow buildup of visible discomfort and warning signs that went unaddressed, or worse, ignored.
The franchise does not understand what they've got in their possession right now, which is Caitlin Clark, and they're going to blow it. This ought to be the most troubling for the WNBA.
Making this injury explode beyond the headlines isn't just Caitlin Clark being hurt. It's how the Indiana Fever handled her in the days and weeks leading up to it. And frankly, fans are calling it nothing short of reckless. Let's start with her minutes. Caitlin wasn't just playing, she was being overplayed. After returning from her initial quad injury, her playing time didn't gradually ramp up.
They went from 28 minutes in this game to 34 in the next, 34 in the one after that, and then she played 31 minutes.
It shot up from 28 minutes to 34 minutes, and then again to over 30 in games where she clearly wasn't at full strength. This wasn't done in close must-win situations.
Amping up her minutes like that on an injured leg was a terrible decision.
This was happening in games that were already decided. One of the most disturbing examples was against Seattle. The Fever were leading by 8 with just 16 seconds on the clock. The game was practically over. Yet Caitlin Clark was inexplicably subbed back in, and within seconds, she was on the ground, in visible pain, clutching her groin. Fans were stunned. Why risk your star player in garbage time?
Many people were wondering why she was even in at the moment.
Why in the world is she back in the game with 16 seconds left?
Especially when she was already showing signs of physical strain. But the mismanagement didn't start there. It started long before. Caitlin had her leg taped in multiple games. She was clearly adjusting her movement on the court, and instead of easing off her workload, she was being pushed harder. The Fever's decision to ignore the warning signs, or worse, knowingly gamble with her health, has become a lightning rod for criticism. Coach Stephanie White didn't help the situation.
Stephanie White did comment on Caitlin's injury, and she said she didn't even know until last night.
Caitlin Clark did get an MRI last night because she was feeling pain in her groin and that she is day by day. And Coach Stephanie White actually did an interview with media. They were asking her about it. I'll play for you guys a little bit of the clip here.
Find out about this groin injury and how much of an absence do you expect from her beyond today?
Yeah, late last night. I think it's very much a day-to-day thing, how she responds to treatment. I stay in my lane and let our strength and conditioning and our physical, our AT staff do what they do best. But yeah, I found out late last night, and then we'll treat it day.
When asked about the injury, she said she found out late last night and emphasized she stays in her lane while the medical staff handles things. That comment didn't sit well.
A lot of fans are wondering how Coach Stephanie White did not know about this. And
how can a head coach claim to lead a team but remain unaware of a star player's visible physical decline, or refuse to intervene when her minutes were escalating? Even more alarming, this wasn't just a new groin issue. According to multiple sources, Caitlin came into the preseason already battling a quad injury, and it's well known among athletes that if a muscle injury like that isn't fully healed, the body begins compensating. Overcompensation can shift pressure to nearby areas, like the groin, which is exactly what appears to have happened here. Caitlin bulked up in the off-season, changed her body, and likely altered her mechanics. She needed smart management.
You saw that her legs weren't under her in that Valkyries game. You probably should have just sat her out.
What she got instead was overuse.
Rest up, Caitlin Clark, and please get better.
And then there's the bigger picture. This isn't just any rookie. This is Caitlin Clark, the biggest name the WNBA has seen in years. The draw for ticket sales, TV ratings, and league-wide attention. Yet she was treated like just another player, thrown back into the fire without regard for her long-term health. This isn't just a mistake, it's malpractice. And fans know it. They're not just angry that she's injured. They're furious that it could have been prevented. This isn't hindsight. This is accountability.
This is not a game we lose ever. Another coaching malpractice and another mishandled lead by Steph. Steph kills us every game, and the referees just finished the job. The refs were bad again.
Caitlin Clark is so great for the WNBA. The WNBA has always been physical. It's always been extremely competitive, right? And Caitlin Clark isn't the best player in the league. She plays the game with a high skill level.
Caitlin Clark isn't just another promising rookie.
Much like a rising tide lifts all boats, if there is no tide,
she is the driving force behind the WNBA's biggest surge in relevance and revenue in decades. So when news of her groin injury broke and the details around it revealed possible mishandling, it didn't just set off a reaction, it triggered a full-blown panic across the league, among fans, broadcasters, sponsors, and players alike. Let's look at the numbers. The last time Caitlin Clark missed time due to injury, WNBA viewership dropped by more than 50%.
the WNBA ratings across the league dropped by over 50% when Caitlin Clark was out with injury.
That's not an opinion. That's a measurable collapse in audience interest. And it's not hard to understand why. People don't just watch the Fever, they watch Caitlin. She's not only the most followed WNBA player on social media, she's one of the few names in women's basketball that consistently trends across mainstream platforms. Now she's sidelined again, and the fear is this might not be short-term. If her groin injury is connected to an underlying quad issue, and if her body was being overworked post-injury,
Those are very hard shots on your muscles. Like, they take a lot of leg strength.
Still, if you was going to allow her to play 25 to 28, I wouldn't have been touching the 30 marks. It was bad management.
We're not just talking about a day-to-day absence. We're talking weeks.
It's going to be a nagging injury, man. She just keeps playing, keeps trying to play through it.
Possibly even months if complications arise.
Last thing you want is her compensating or her groin not firing properly, and she goes to cut to the side, and then all of a sudden something blows in her knee.
That's terrifying for a league riding her momentum. But the real panic isn't just about ratings. It's about the perception that the WNBA and Indiana Fever failed to protect their most valuable asset. This isn't just a player issue, it's a leadership crisis.
I don't think it's a good idea to just chance it.
Many fans are asking, how could the Fever allow Caitlin to play through pain that was clearly visible to everyone watching?
She wants to help this team win, but she has to sit out.
How could they keep increasing her minutes instead of pulling her back? And why was she still on the court with 16 seconds left in a decided game? These are not just game time decisions. These are organizational decisions, and the fallout is growing. Social media is flooded with fans questioning the Fever's priorities. Was the coaching staff too focused on chasing wins and media moments? Was the front office pushing to keep her on the court for ticket sales and national broadcasts? If so, they gambled with the health of the league's biggest star, and they're losing badly.
Late last night, I think it's very much a day-to-day thing, how she responds to treatment. I stay in my lane and let our strength and conditioning and our physical, our AT staff do what they do best. But yeah, I found out late last night, and then we'll treat it day to day. I mean, I don't know that it's a factor from a physical standpoint, from an athletic training standpoint. Certainly in my mind, it is. But at the same time, she's shown that she's tough and she's a quick healer. So we'll see. I had to have been at some point during the day because they took her out yesterday, for the MRI. So I'm not exactly sure. I didn't hear about it until we heard from our training staff last night. You'll have to ask our training staff. Yeah, I stay in my lane.
Fans aren't just blaming the team either. They're pointing fingers at the referees and the league itself. Over the last several weeks, Caitlin Clark has taken hit after hit, bumps, shoves, borderline flagrant fouls, often with no whistle. Players are allowed to be physical with her in a way that feels excessive. And the justification? That she's aggressive, that she plays with an edge, so she should expect the same back. But that's not how star players are protected in any professional league. In the NBA, players like Steph Curry and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander draw fouls for far less contact. Caitlin, on the other hand, gets pushed off her spot, hand-checked for full possessions, and knocked down, with no call. If refs aren't willing to enforce basic rules when it comes to her,
Referees won't call every ticky-tack foul, or they'll be a lot more lenient towards this issue.
the message being sent is clear. This league doesn't protect its stars. That message is devastating. Not just for Caitlin, but for any future player coming into the league with that level of fame. And yet, despite the injury, despite the poor officiating, despite the pressure, Caitlin Clark never complained.
Caitlin Clark, right? What does she mean to the game of women's basketball?
Everything. The attention she's bringing, but the hate she's bringing from no players, it's great. It's what sports wants. You need a protagonist, antagonist, all that stuff that movies are based around.
She's the reason why we're always seeing something, because she's the star.
She's a golden goose of this league.
Caitlin Clark is so great for the WNBA. The WNBA has always been physical. It's always been extremely competitive. You know what happens when you get a superstar that may be a little bit of an instigator, or a superstar that may be a little bit of an antagonist? You gotta go get a goon, right? And Caitlin Clark isn't the best player in the league. Sports is about storytelling. There's a story that started at Iowa that we now get to watch in the WNBA. She plays the game with a high skill level.
She is the biggest or the brightest star right now. She's the most marketable person in the WNBA. She's the most microscopic, and anything that involves her, the media is gonna take it and push it out into the universe.
Caitlin Clark, her skill level, her narrative, the thing that is driving the league.
She kept showing up, kept playing through pain, and kept answering questions with class. That's why this moment stings so much. because it feels like she gave the league everything, and in return, she wasn't given the care, protection, or support that she deserves.
We saw the Caitlin Clark effect last season. We saw the influx of millions of new fans, billions of dollars in revenue that came to the WNBA, and that was supposed to come to the WNBA this season.
You can't win a game without Caitlin Clark.
She's already starting on fire, man. She's ready to go. Look, jersey lifted up. Oh, throwing the jersey. Swing it around your head like a helicopter, then leaves the building. All right.
The panic we're seeing now isn't just about a player being hurt. It's about a system failure and a warning sign for the entire WNBA. When you have a generational star, you don't play them into the ground. You protect them. You manage their minutes. You listen when something's not right. Because players like Caitlin Clark don't come around often, and if this league wants to grow, they can't afford to break her before her prime.
I mean, I'm sick to my stomach. Indiana's season is toast without Caitlin Clark. Look what happened against a terrible team. This hurts the entire WNBA. The league won't exist without her. Pray for her return.
At the end of the day, this isn't just about basketball. It's about responsibility. Caitlin Clark has given everything to this game: her body, her energy, and her heart. What she deserved in return was protection, smart management.
Your body got to get used to carrying all that muscle. It's tough that she's in this position.
And respect for her long-term health. Not to be overplayed, ignored, and pushed to her limit. Now, as she battles through this groin injury, the spotlight is shifting. Not to her performance, but to the people who were supposed to keep her safe.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT.
She signed my jersey. So happy, I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best day ever.
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
Caitlin Clark, right? What does she mean to the game of women's basketball?
Everything.
Caitlin Clark is so great for the WNBA. The WNBA has always been physical. It's always been extremely competitive, right? And Caitlin Clark isn't the best player in the league. She plays the game with a high skill level.
The Indiana Fever, the coaching staff, the league, and even the refs, they all have some explaining to do. If you believe Caitlin Clark deserves better, if you stand with her during this setback, drop a number 1 in the comments right now. Let the world see how many people support her, not just as a player, but as a person. Make sure to subscribe for more updates, because this story isn't over. Caitlin will be back, and when she returns, she'll remind everyone exactly why she's the biggest name in the WNBA.